All right, tonight we're going to talk about what would Jesus do, and we're going to say that he would be a good steward. Now, what is a steward? A steward is someone that is responsible for something, and in fact, I'm going to use John chapter 17 tonight to say what Jesus was responsible for, and let's see if you think he was a good steward. So I'm in John 17. This is what we call the high priestly prayer. This is between Jesus and God the night before the crucifixion. And here's what he said. Jesus spoke these words, lifted up his eyes to heaven, and said, Father, the hour is come. Glorify thy Son, that thy Son also may glorify thee, as you have given him power over all flesh, that he should give eternal life to as many as you have given him. And this is eternal life, that they may know you, the only true God, and Jesus Christ, whom you have sent. Verse 4, I have glorified thee on the earth. Listen to this. I have finished the work that you gave me to do. So that makes him a good steward. He was sent with responsibility, and he finished the work. Wow. That's a pretty cool statement, isn't it? So here we have Jesus giving us the example of a good steward. John chapter 17. Gospel of John. So here's the way the principle works. First of all, God owns everything. And let's start over here, Genesis 1:1.
In the beginning, God created heavens and earth.
All right, so whose was it?
God.
I guess it was his. All right. How about Psalms 8, 1 through 4?
O Lord, our Lord, how excellent is your name in all the earth. Who have set your glory above the heavens? Out of the mouth of babes and nursing infants, you have ordained strength because of your enemies, that you may silence the enemy and the avenger. When I consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you have ordained, what is man that you are mindful of him, and the Son of Man that you visit him?
So he's saying, I considered the stars and just the handiwork of your fingers and the whole universe. It all belongs to you. It belongs to you. Isaiah 40, let's go through verse 12.
Who has measured the waters in the hollow of his hand, or the breadth of his hand? Mark off the heavens. Who has held the dust of the earth in a basket, or weighed the mountains on the scales?
So that's putting God in a pretty lofty spot. Who has measured? Who did? Well, God did. Well, who holds it in his hand? Well, he does. It all belongs to him. Verse 15.
Surely the nations are like a drop in a bucket. They are regarded as dust upon the scales. He weighs the islands as though they were fine dust.
It's just his. It belongs to him. It's nothing to him. He made it. Let's go verse 18.
With whom then will you compare God? To what image will you liken him?
Do the next two, 25 and 26 of Isaiah 40.
To whom will you compare me? Or who is my equal, said the Holy One? Lift up your eyes and look to the heavens. Who created all these? He who brings out the starry host one by one and calls forth each of them by name. Because of his great power and mighty strength, not one of them is missing.
Ha ha ha. Listen to John 1:3.
All things were made through him, and without him nothing was made that was made.
Colossians 1:16 and 17.
For by him all things were created, both in the heavens and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or rulers or authorities, all things that were created through him and for him.
Is there any question about that? How about this? How about the last one there? Richard, what's the name of that book you're reading from?
I'm going to say Haggai,
Close enough. You win.
verse 8. The silver is mine and the gold is mine, declares the Lord Almighty.
Oh, man, we got it covered here. So the first thing we have to know is God owns everything. It's his. You took a breath a minute ago, that was from his air. You borrowed it. You ate some chicken a while ago. Where do you think that chicken came from? He made chicken. He made the earth. He created the system that supplies it. He made the entire thing. He made Mother Nature, whatever her name is. And he just made it all. He just made it all. It belongs to him. Now, point number 2 is he consigns it to us. Genesis 1:29.
God said, see, I have given you every herb of that yields seed, which is on the face of all the earth, and every tree whose fruit yields seed, to you it should be for food.
So he puts it in access to man. Man now has access to God's creation. I've given it to you. This particular thing is for food. And listen to Psalms 8 and verse number 6. What happened? Psalms 8 and verse 6.
You have made him
Oh.
to have dominion over the works of your hands. You have put all things under his feet.
Wow. So what happened? So we have the whole world has been consigned to us. In fact, it says in, well, we might even be there, we're not. It says in Genesis that I want you to have dominion over the earth. And he even told Adam, I want you to name all the animals. Man alive, how did you do that, you know? This is a brontosaurus, and this is a I don't know what he called him, right? Probably called him something in Hebrew, or whatever he was speaking. Who knows, right? All right, I'm digging deep. 1 Corinthians 6.
1 Timothy
That's what I meant.
6, verse 17.
Yeah.
Says, charge them that are rich in this world, that they be not high-minded, nor trusting in uncertain riches, but in the living God, who giveth us richly all things to enjoy.
So we just found out that he owns the gold and the silver in the last chapter part. Now he's given it to us, and he's put it in our authority. He's put it in our resource pile. All right, let's go to Mark 13.
It is like a man going to a far country who left his house and gave authority to his servants and to each his work, and commanded the doorkeeper to keep watch.
What a cool verse. He says God is like this. It's like a man that came down to earth and he put everything in place. He put mankind on it, and then he went back to a far country and he said, you have authority over it. Here it is. Don't screw this up. And so we're in charge. Clearly in charge. Luke 19. A long one.
Now as they heard these things, he spoke another parable, because he was near Jerusalem, and because they thought the kingdom of God would appear immediately. Therefore he said, a certain nobleman went to a far country to receive for himself a kingdom and to return. So he called 10 of his servants, delivered to them 10 minas, and said to them, do business till I come. But his citizens hated him, and sent a delegation after him, saying, we will not have this man to reign over us. And so it was that when he returned, having received the kingdom, he then commanded these servants to whom he had given the money to be called to him, that he might know how much every man had gained by trading. Then came the first, saying, Master, your mina has earned 10 minas. He said to him, well done, good servant, because you were faithful in a very little, have authority over 10 cities.
Wow.
And the second came, saying, Master, your mina has earned 5 minas. Likewise, he said to him, you also be over 5 cities. Then another came, saying, Master, here is your mina, which I have kept put away in a handkerchief. For I feared you, because you are an austere man. You collect what you did not deposit, and reap what you did not sow. And he said to him, out of your own mouth I will judge you, you wicked servant. You knew that I was an austere man, collecting what I did not deposit, and reaping what I did not sow. Why then did you not put my money in the bank, that at my coming I might have collected it with interest? And he said to those who stood by, take the mina from him, and give it to him who has 10 minas. But they said to him, Master, he has 10 minas. For I say to you that to everyone who has will be given, and from him who does not have, even what he has will be taken away from him. But bring here those enemies of mine who did not want me to reign over them, and slay them before me.
All right. This is a parable that Jesus gave he's saying, let me describe what this whole life experience is. It's a man who came, and he's talking about God, and he doled out responsibility, he doled out resources, he doled out stuff, he doled out talents, he doled out, and he said, what did you do with it? Now, yesterday, Billy Graham died. So if God were to say to him, I gave you the ability to stand before a crowd, what did you do with it? What would he say? I killed it, man. Their numbers are 215 million people heard Billy Graham preach. I think that more people heard the gospel message yesterday than in his whole life, because it was all over the TVs, all over the world. I would think God would say, wow, you did good. Now, here's another guy that was also able to stand before crowds, Adolf Hitler, which he did. Can you move a crowd? Yes, I can. And he get up there and he created lunacy, right? And as a result of it, evil. Well, now there's the wasting of his ability. He had the same ability that Billy Graham had, right? But one went good, one went bad, and that's the stewardship issue entirely. Did you finish the work I gave you to do? And in this case, we have to say, he squandered it. So there's a story about if you're faithful in this life, you'll be rewarded in the next, which doesn't mean anything to us because we've never talked to anyone that lived to tell about the next life. But someday it will. Someday it'll matter. In fact, I think that someday that's all that will matter. And we'll look back and go, wow, I wish I'd done more. I wish I'd been a better steward, right? So here's the 2 points. Number 1, God owns everything. Point number 2, God consigns it to us, everything. And number 3, we will give an accounting someday of our stewardship. So, Mark 13, verse 34, I think you just read that. Do it again.
I got it. You assigned it to me after.
Okay, go ahead.
It's like a man going to a far country who left his house and gave authority to his servants, and to each his work, and commanded the doorkeeper to watch.
Now listen to Luke 16, 1 and 2.
He also said to his disciples, there was a certain rich man who had a steward, and an accusation was brought to him that this man was wasting his goods.
Okay, let's stop right there. So the first thing we know is that everybody executes authority in some way or another. Some good, some not so good, right? Some capitalize on it, some do not, to the glory of God. Now let's read verse 2.
So he called him and said to him, what is this I hear about you? Give an account of your stewardship, for you can no longer be steward.
I have a feeling we're going to hear those words someday. That when we stand before God, I think we're going to hear him say, give an account of your stewardship. Because this is the parable, and this is the way it works. And there will be what we call a reckoning day. It's the day of reckoning. You've heard it called that. It's the day of reckoning. What are we doing? Well, we're reckoning. Give an account of your stewardship. How did you do with what I gave you?
Reward, right? You receive a reward.
Say it again.
A reward.
Works? Reward. Thank you. Got to speak English. No, I'm sorry. Rewards or lack thereof, or maybe even judgment. Maybe what you're giving an account for is give an account of Jesus. I gave him to you. What did you do with him? Well, I rejected him. One of these days, there will be a day of reckoning, one way or another. All right, let's go to areas of interest. So we can name a few here, and these are things that we can sort of dole out. This area, that area. Okay, so let's talk about time. Acts chapter 17. You got that in verse 15 through 21.
So those who conducted Paul brought him to Athens, and receiving a command for Silas,
Yeah.
Silas and Timothy to come to him with all speed, they departed. Now while Paul waited for them at Athens, his spirit was provoked within him when he was that the city was given over to idols. Therefore he reasoned in the synagogue with the Jews, with the Gentile worships in the marketplace daily, with those who happened to be there. Then certain
Epicureans
and Stoic philosophers encountered him, and some said, "What does this babbler want to say?" Others said, "He seems to be a proclaimer of foreign gods, because he preached to them Jesus and the resurrection." They took him and brought him to the Areopagus, saying, "May we know what this new doctrine is of which you speak? For you are bringing some strange things to our ears. Therefore we want to know what these things mean." For all the Athenians and the foreigners who were spent time had nothing else but either to tell or to hear some new things.
Read that last little phrase again. What they do?
Sorry.
The last phrase.
Nothing else but either to tell or to hear some new
They
things.
spent all their time in nothing else but saying, "What's up?" That's all they ever did. What do you got? Nothing? What do you got? Nothing? Well, let me tell you what I got. And nothing. They spent all their time. They spent all their time in saying, "What's new?" We're just sitting around like bumps. Man alive, how does that enrich the world? How does that enrich God? How does that do anything? Just philosophers. Got to be careful of philosophers, right? Time. So I think one day, how much time do you get every week, by the way? Well, we're all equal, aren't we? We all have the same amount of time, and we all have the same opportunity. We all have the same sun that goes up in the morning, the same sun that goes down at night, and we have time. So the question is, what are you doing with your time? Is your time something that God would say, "Well done"? Or is your time something that God would say, "That's all you got"? Because one day, I think we're going to give an account. In the day of reckoning, how did you spend your time? Simple as that. How about the next one? Talent, way over here. 1 Corinthians 12, 6 through 7.
And there are varieties of activities, but it is the same God who empowers them all and everyone. To each is given the manifestation of the Spirit for the common good.
And so we're going to read about the manifestation of the Spirit in Exodus 31, 1 through 5.
Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "See, I have called my name Bezalel, the son of Uri, the son of Hur, the tribe of Judah, and I have filled him with the Spirit of God, in wisdom, in understanding, in knowledge, and in all manner of workmanship, to design artistic works, to work in gold, and silver, and bronze, in cutting jewels for setting, and carving wood, and to work in all manner of workmanship."
What a cool verse. He says the Spirit of God has empowered Bezalel, and here's his giftings. You ready? He was an artisan. He was a craftsman. He could make things. Some people are good at making things. Melvin's pretty good at making things. He can put this together, that together, make it look good when he's done. He knows how to caulk over his mistakes, and everything looks good when he gets done, right? That's why God invented caulk. Everybody has a skill they're given. Josh is good in a logic sense, the computer. It requires logic to make that happen. Some people have better logic than others. Maybe not good sense, but they have good logic. Two different things. right? So we all have some area. You know, Pat back there, he's a schmoozer. I'm saying it works to his. I think it works to the glory of God. It certainly can. You know, I know how to talk to people that make them. I can move people. That's my gift. I can move people. I can also make them laugh. What's wrong with that? Why does it have to hurt to learn, right? And so we all have something going on, right? We all have something that sort of drives us. We have a natural ability. We have a skill. Now the question is, will that be used to the glory of God? Because one day there's going to be a reckoning. What did you do? What did you do that mattered? Well, if all you did that mattered was serve yourself with it, then I think you messed up. Now, can somebody program a computer to the glory of God? It can most certainly do that as a means to an end. Whatever you're doing, Melvin went over and helped somebody today. That's awesome. Somebody had to do that. And, and so we all have something going on that we can serve humanity with. In fact, it's my opinion that something in your life ought to be used to serve humanity. Now, what about the guy that he plays the stock market and he's the hedge fund operator? And what's he doing? He's enriching himself. It's all he's doing. He could use it to the glory of God, or maybe not. It depends, right? But some folks, so I think one day the question will be, I gave you a talent. I gave you a gift. I gave you a track to run on in your life to the glory of God. What did you do with it? And there'll be a day of reckoning for that. Listen to the home business. This little touchy, Genesis 18.
Abraham will surely become a great and powerful nation, and all nations on earth will be blessed through him. Verse 19, for I have chosen him so that he will direct his children and his household after him to keep the way of the Lord by doing what is right and just, so that the Lord will bring about for Abraham what he has promised.
Wow, that's a cool story. And what he's saying is, I gave you the ability to procreate, but not just spread the world with babies, so you can make citizens, you can make believers, you can make followers of Jesus. I'm going to gift them also with gifts that they can use to the glory of God if you train them right. It's all a big cycle. And we have responsibility beyond just making babies. That's the easy part. It's the aftercare that's different. You raise them up. How about the next one? Opportunity. Romans 13.
And do this, knowing the time, that now it is high time to awake out of sleep. For now our salvation is nearer than when we first believed. Night is far spent, day is at hand. Therefore, let us cast off the works of darkness, and let us put on the armor of light.
So here we are. We have certain opportunities that come our way, and what are we going to do with it? We're just going to squander the opportunity? No. See, we go down to the Red Shield Lodge. That's an opportunity. What are you going to do while people are down there with that opportunity? Well, I'm going to maybe not even go. I don't know. I was thinking about taking a nap then or something. Man, for crying out loud, God gives us opportunities. We got to take the opportunities. And we have to go and actually, I think, keep your antenna up and look for opportunities. My good friend Kenny Rogers the other day, maybe you know this, he ran into a lady down in Tampa that was not doing so well. And she needed some drywall work done. He went down there and fixed it up for her. And he said, I looked around and said, yeah, I'm not charging her much. I doubt that she has much. So he charged her only $150. I don't know what he did for her, but he thought it was a discounted rate. And when the granddaughter came and opened the refrigerator, all he saw was ketchup and mustard. And he took the check and tore it up. That's cool. And he came here and got a box of food and took it. That's an opportunity. You're put in somebody's home. Do them good. Do something for them. And I think our lives ought to be lives of service, where we find something in our lives that cause us to serve our fellow man. And if you don't do that, you're going to say, you know, I gave you opportunity. What did you do with it? And you're going to go, I mean, I kill at those video games. Man, I got to level 6. Fellowship. How about this? Listen to Acts 2.
They were continually devoting themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship, to the breaking of bread and to prayer. Everyone kept feeling a sense of awe, and many wonders and signs were taking place through the apostles. And all those who had believed and were together, and had believed on all things, were together and had all things in common. And they began selling their property and possessions, and were sharing in the fall, as anyone might have need. Day by day, continuing with one mind in the temple, and breaking bread from house to house, they were taking their meals together with gladness and sincerity of heart, praising God and having favor with all the people. And the Lord was adding to their number, day by day, those who were to be saved.
That is the activity of the Spirit-filled church. They were freshly filled with the Spirit of God, every one of them, and they did nothing but, let's go, we got to tell people, we got to break bread, we got to go from house to house, we have to have fellowship. And what are we do with this fellowship? Well, we're drawing people in. What we're doing is we're convincing. Even fellowship has its place for the kingdom of God. If you do it right, advance the kingdom because of fellowship. And I'm not saying you shouldn't go golfing and have fun, you know, and just, but even in the area of fellowship, you can bless somebody else. And I think that ought to be in our hearts to do that. Go and bless somebody. How cool could that be? Listen to the church business, areas of interest to church, Matthew 16, 13 through 18.
Who do people say the Son of Man is? They replied, some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, and still others, Jeremiah or one of the prophets. But what about you, he asked. Who do you say I am? Simon Peter answered, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. Jesus replied, blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah, for this was not revealed to you by man, my Father in heaven. And I tell you that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades will not overcome it.
Do you realize you belong to that organization that God ordained to attack the world, to attack hell? That's it, man. We're it. We're the church. We're it. Here, I think in this little group here, we're a vocational church. Do you know, do you have any idea how many people are watching us? I guarantee there's a whole bunch of folks watching us at Bell Shoals. And I think what we're doing is we're raising the bar for them, because they're not that bar. We're raising the standard for them, because we are interested in the lost. We're interested in helping people. All they do is talk about it, right? We try to go do it. We're part of that church that Jesus is talking about, saying the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. And by the way, it doesn't say that the gates of hell will not resist it. You might as well mark that down somewhere. You're in it, and there's always opposition to good. I made a little Facebook post today. They were talking about the gun thing and all that stuff, you know, and there's so much emotional talk that doesn't get anywhere. It's just sound bites, you know. And I said today that evil doesn't follow the rules. It just never does. It's against good. It's against right. So no matter how many rules you have, evil doesn't care. It's just going to go, right? Well, you guys, we're on the other side now. We're against that. We're against evil. And at the highest level, we're against it at the spiritual level. All right. How about the purse? And when I say purse, it's talking money. Mark 12.
Now Jesus sat opposite the treasury and saw how the people put money into the treasury. And many who were rich put in much. Then one poor widow came and threw in 2 mites, which make a farthing. So he called his disciples to himself and said to them, Surely I say to you that this poor widow hath put in more than all those who have given to the treasury. For they all put in out of their abundance, but she out of her poverty put in all that she had, her whole life full.
That's quite a statement, isn't it? And here's what I want you to know about that. He took notice. See all these people coming by and putting in money. And he said, I want you to know something. This is all proportionate giving. That guy just put in 10%. I know what his income is. That guy right there, he just put in 3%. Look at this lady. She put in 100%. So it's all perspective, isn't it? So he is interested in, I remember years ago, this is funny, we took a Christmas offering, and in our church in Michigan, our pastor, I wasn't the pastor, I was an associate pastor. So we had this manger offering. We're going to take a manger. So we had this feed trough built. Somebody built a feed trough out of old barn wood, you know, and it's sitting there, and it's got a little straw in it. Say, this is the manger offering. So the pastor came time to take the manger offering, right? So he had every row come out and walk by, and I'm going, man, this is awful. You know, this is putting people on the spot, you know. And so every person had to walk by it. And I'm watching, and he put me on one side of it and my brother-in-law on the other side of it. So we're sitting there watching how people come and put money. And this lady came and she walked by and we made eye contact. And we made eye contact and she did a head fake like she put money in and kept walking. And I went, oh, this is terrible. This is terrible. It put her on the spot. Shouldn't have put her on the spot like that. It was awful. Put her on the spot. But she went with it, man, and she did the head fake like we made eye contact. We both knew she didn't, and she just kept walking. That cracked me up. But Jesus watches every single time. He knows exactly what's going on. He keeps records. He knows who gives and who doesn't. And he's even elevated, I talked about this last week, he's elevated the idea of money to a god because he knows it's one of our gods. It's one of our big gods. We're always chase money. And I dare say that some of us have chased money so bad that we got in trouble and probably shouldn't have done it. So it's an issue. That's what I'm saying. So he notices how that works. All right, so let's go down to some specifics on money itself. And I just alluded to this, Matthew 6:24.
Says, no man can serve two masters.
There it is.
For either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and mammon.
So here it is. We have a struggle. I think every person has a struggle in his life between, am I going to serve God or am I going to serve money? And doesn't mean a person that serves God can't have money. It just can't be his God. You can't shortchange God because, it just, you get this? Here's what tithing says, Matthew 3:10. Listen to this.
Malachi.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Bring all the tithes into the storehouse.
All right, that's good enough. Let's read that Leviticus 27.
And all the tithe of the land, whether of the seed of the land or of the fruit of the tree, is the Lord's.
Okay, that's good enough. How about Matthew 23:23?
Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For you pay tithe of mint and anise and cumin, and have neglected the weightier matters of the law, justice and mercy and faith. These you ought to have done, without leaving the others undone.
So it says, yes, you tithe. You ought to do that, it says, but don't leave off justice and mercy. So it's saying, yeah, you ought to do that, but you ought to also give, have a good heart for people, not just legalistically paying your dues. You know what I'm saying? It's got to come from a good heart. So let's talk about proportionate giving, Acts 11, 27 through 30. Proportionate. Listen to this.
And in these days, prophets came from Jerusalem to Antioch. Then one of them, named Agabus, stood up and showed by the Spirit that there was going to be a great famine throughout all the world, which also happened in the days of Claudius Caesar. Then the disciples, each according to his ability, determined to send relief to the brethren dwelling in Judea. This they also did, and sent to the elders by the hands of Barnabas and Saul.
So now we have a predetermined proportion. What can I do? I've got $1,000. Could I give $1? And another guy says, well, I've got $1,000. I could give $2. So I'm just saying there's a proportion involved here. And the woman, 100% for her. And by the way, there's only 3 percentages mentioned in the Bible. 10%. If you remember, Zacchaeus said, I'm going to give back 50%. And then this woman that gave 100%. So you can pick whichever one works for you. 10%, 50, or 100. All right, let's read the next one. Sacrificial giving. Listen to this.
Now, Jesus sat opposite the treasury and saw how people put money into the treasury. Many who were rich put in money.
All right, we got the same story here. This is the woman that put in 100%. And I have to say, it was acknowledged as a sacrifice. Now, let's talk about a sacrificial giving. What is sacrificial giving? Well, it's rather subjective. It could mean to a very rich person that instead of driving a Cadillac, I'm going to drive a Chevy. It's something that changes your lifestyle. I think that's the simplest way to say it. Something that changes your lifestyle. I think that would be considered in my book a sacrifice. Now, we wouldn't think of that stepping down from a Cadillac to a Chevy is a big step. At least you're not going to a horse. But it is a step. It is a step. So sometimes there is a call for sacrificial giving. Now, I haven't been around one for a while, and if there ever is one, I'll tell you when it is, but this isn't the time. But I did see it at work in Haiti, where I was embarrassed because I have so much. There were people there that sold. There was a pastor in the United States that had some kind of a finance, and this church in Haiti, they were sacrificing to help that pastor. And I went, oh my gosh, if they only knew what that meant. Because they were actually selling furniture that they had. They had a table. They'd go sell. And the pastor said to me, I tried to tell them, please tell them, don't sell your table. I mean, you only got one table. Don't sell your And they went, oh no, we want to sell our table. And he said, God bless them, what am I going to say? I can't tell them not to do that. So it's sacrifice. And it's all relative to what you have and what you don't have. How about almsgiving? Listen to this. This is Acts 24 and verse 17, and I'll explain this. Oops, back up. Faith giving, sorry.
For they gave according to their means, as I can testify, and beyond their means of their own poor.
Okay, so here's an alms gift about to come up, and I'll tell you what that is. This is people feeding the poor. This is people helping disadvantaged people. And these people said, we want to help. And this is out of their poverty, it says. These people in Macedonia, they didn't have anything. They're like that poor snake. They just didn't have a pit to hiss in. You know, they just had nothing. So, thank you very much. So it says they were willing of themselves. Now this is key. And beyond themselves. So they were willing to say, this is what I can do, but this is what I could do with God's help. That's called a faith promise, a faith gift. They gave it by faith. I don't know where I'm going to get the money to make this work, but here's my faith gift. And I have never, ever, ever seen a God fail a faith gift. Given by faith, God always rewards it. I've seen it over and over and over and over again. Eddie Mercer, I'll tell this story. Eddie Mercer was, I sat at lunch with him yesterday, and I pick up the tab. I don't want him picking up my tab. I don't want it to be assumed that he's going to feed me. No, I always pick up the tab, and he fights me for it, and he gets it. Unless it's too much, then I give it to him. But he said, let me pay the tip. I said, okay, you pay the tip. So he pulls out this wad of money, and I mean, it's enough to choke a horse, you know. And I said, why do you carry so much money? He said, I don't even know where I get it. He said, I give strawberries to people, and sometimes they pay me. And I said, well, I've never done that. You know, I just take the strawberries, you know. He said, yeah, I know, I've been talking about that, you know. And he's got this wad of hundreds. And he says, here. I said, where do you get $100 bills? And he gave me a $100 bill. And I said, I don't want your money, you know. No, take that. And we kept doing this. And finally I went, all right, man, I'll take the 100. I put it in my pocket. He said, they're hard to break at McDonald's. They won't let you buy a burger. I said, well, where I go, it's no problem. It's 3 Coins Diner, right? And I've usually got 6 guys with me. He said, and he started going through his hundreds. He said, I got 7 of them. Where'd I get all that? He said, I don't even know where I got all that. He says, but I remember what happened. Years ago, I told God, I will do this if you do this. And he said, and ever since then, I got a wad of money in my pocket. I don't know what it is. Can't explain it. That's awesome. It's awesome to be involved in God, you know, because this is really the way it should go. That's the way it should go, right? Instead of us good Americans, this is the way we do it. That's our style. Man alive, I think God blesses people like that. All right, which brings me to almsgiving, and go ahead, Acts 24:17.
Now after many years I came to bring alms and offerings to my nation.
Now, what is an alms? Alms is giving to less fortunate people. That's what an alms is. You ever heard somebody say, alms for the poor, alms for the poor, alms for the poor? They're begging, alms for the poor. If you go overseas, I go to Tunisia, and here's a little lady sitting on the side of the sidewalk. They don't have welfare over there, and she's just going like this, you know, and people walk by, and they hand her money. It's part of their ethnicity to hand her money. You know, so she put money. That's alms. That's what alms is. You see somebody in need and you hand them some money. I can't tell you how much money I've given away. I used to empty my pockets all the time. We used to have people come to our church, and during the 80s when auto industry went under in Detroit area, and there was always somebody coming to the, and I would say, look, the guy says, I just need a few bucks. I said, I'll tell you what, I've got a bus out there. If you go out there and clean that bus out for me, I'll give you some money for it. And he went out there and cleaned out the bus, and I gave him money. I've tried that with other people, and they go, I'm not going to clean the stinking bus, Just kept on going. But I gave so much money away, I had to go to the church and say, look, we need to take up an alms offering because I'm getting busted every week here. And so we would just collect change. Just change. And I would say, this is an alms offering. Just whatever change you have in your pocket, it's not much, it's not going to hurt anybody. Just reach in your pocket and throw it in, and it'll add up, and after a while, and we have some money to give away. First day I did that, it's really kind of funny. Ed Hubertus was a barber, and as soon as church was over, he was going to go to the barber shop and put all these, because he had his weekly stash of quarters in his pocket. He was going to put them in his cash register at the barber shop set himself up for Monday. I said, we just reach it, whatever change you got in your pocket. And he was the usher. He's standing there with a plate going. Here it comes, man. Just give a couple $100 in quarters. It's hysterical. That's what alms is, helping people, giving people something. Josh has a habit, he'll go through McDonald's down here, and he'll get himself a fish sandwich, and he always gets another one, hands it to the guy on the, that's a good thing to do. You say, well, I don't know if I trust. Who cares? You did it in good faith. God will bless you for it, no matter what the guy does with it. Sean here the other day, we went to Cracker Barrel. And he said, let me go. And I got out of the car, and he's walking over giving the guy, that's cool, man. That's just cool. He says, yeah, I've been there so many times. I know what it's like. Alms. Always sensitive to those. Now, I know you don't have $1 for every person that there is, but, you got to at least have the heart for it. All right, let's go to the place of giving. This is 1 Corinthians 16 on the first. Go ahead.
Now the collection for the Lord's people, do what I told the Galatian churches to do. On the first day of every week, each of you should set aside some money in keeping with your income. Save it up so that when I come, no collections will have to be made.
All right, so here we have, this is a Paul about to come and take this collection up, and this is really where we get the first day of the week when you're gathered together. This is where we get the Sunday worship. On the first day of the week, it's the Lord's Day. When you're gathered together, you come and we'll take an offering. And so, but we meet here, we get some here, and that, it's just saying, when you gather together, make a collection, man. And we'll take it and use it. And that's what we do here. We take it and we use it. Throw it in the pot. I take it down to the house, throw it in the bank. And it helps. Keeps the place running. How about this next one? The results of giving. I think this is important. This is Philippians 4:19. This is a very cool verse, taken out of context usually, but let's go ahead and read it.
My God shall supply all your need according to his riches in glory by Christ Jesus.
Now you have to put the context around that, and the context is, this is Paul, a missionary that is in the field, and this church of Philippi, he said, nobody gave to my needs except you only. God bless you for it. My God shall supply all your need. So here's a guy that's ministering, and somebody is helping him minister, and the result of it, Paul says, I think God's going to supply your needs from now on. I want to tell you, but I can't. It's a little too personal. I'll tell you a different one. I had a friend that was, I'll tell you, it was Ross Spano. Ross is the singer at the church, and he was the lawyer that did my 501c3, and he was just getting out of law, and he's starting up his little thing, and he's got a little office about the big as that table right there, and offices all over, and he's on his own little thing, and he did one of my Bible study groups in his place, in his law office, and we started it up. Okay, here we come, and this is where actually Chris Bryant came and accepted Jesus. So Ross Spano said, well, I want to be a part of your ministry. So he started giving to me, and his business started going down. Untested faith is no faith at all. His business started going down, right? So he's going down, and he's going, I don't know if I'm going to make it or not. You know, this is I may have to take a job at cutting meat at Costco or something. You know, Storts, and he's going up, but he never wavered, giving me $100 a month. Kept it going, kept it going, kept it going, and it turned the corner, and I mean, he's got a law office now that is running with lawyers all over the place. He's off running for the Attorney General for the state. God's blessed him because of that. And I think it's because he didn't back off. I think it's because he kept going and wouldn't, and I hate to say fail the test, because I'm not God, I don't know all about that, but it seemed like it to me. Just a story. All right. Luke 6:38. How about this one? You're going to like this one.
Give, and it shall be given unto you. They will pour into your lap good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. For by your standard of measure, it will be measured to you in return.
I've got to tell you, I live off that verse. Give, and it shall be given unto you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, shall men give into your bosom. That's what King James says. Here it is. So that's my life, is giving. I give all the time, every day, all the time, all day. I'm pouring into somebody's life, and sometimes it's financial, sometimes it's not. And God blesses me because of it. Just all of a sudden it comes back from the most mysterious places. Pretty cool. I live off that verse. Give, and it shall be given unto you. How about 2 Corinthians 9, 6 through 11? Listen to this.
Remember this, whoever sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and whoever sows generously will also reap generously. Each man should give what he has decided in his heart to give, not reluctantly or under compulsion. For God loves a cheerful giver, and God is able to make all grace abound to you, so that in all things, at all times, having all that you need, you will abound in every good work. As it is written, he has scattered abroad his gifts to the poor. His righteousness endures forever. Now he who supplies seed to the sower and bread for food will also supply and increase your store of seed and will enlarge the harvest of your righteousness. You will be made rich in every way so that you can be generous on every occasion. And through us, your generosity will result in thanksgiving to God.
The law of the harvest. He just read the law of the harvest. If you sow seed, you're going to reap a harvest. If you never sow seed, you don't reap anything. And you put a little grain of corn in the ground, and you don't get back a grain of corn. What do you get back? You get a stalk. You get a couple of ears. You get enough corn to... It's the law of the harvest. And can you imagine? Isn't it amazing how much scripture there is about money? Because it says you can't serve God and money, so it's trying to constantly get things in perspective, getting your perspective, that of being a generous person, a person with a generous heart. Let's finish up by going to Matthew or Philippians 4:17. Eternity is better.
Not that I seek the gift, but I seek the fruit that abounds to your account.
That's good. So here's Paul in that church at Philippi. He's saying, thank you for giving. He said, no, I don't need a gift. I'm not after that. I want fruit that will abound to your account. So here's, you talk about bang for the buck. So he gave $1,000 to the Apostle Paul, and it's been compounding for 2,000 years every time somebody is blessed by the life of Paul. Every time somebody reads a word that he wrote, you're ching, ching, ching. That's a good one to get a hold of right there, right? And it says you have an account. Pay attention to this. Fruit that may abound to your... Where is this account? Oh, you'll cash it in someday. Lay not up for yourselves treasures on earth. Oh, but better read that. I almost did it.
Lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth, where moth and rust doeth corrupt, but where thieves break through and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doeth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through or steal.
Lay up treasures in heaven. Now, I don't know what that means. I don't get an accounting of my treasures in heaven. I don't get it. Billy Graham gets it. He just got it. I wonder what it was like when he got to heaven. Noah and I were at the restaurant today, and the waitress came up and she said, can you imagine what it was like when Billy Graham stepped into heaven? She said, imagine all the people that were there, can you imagine that? No, I can't. But it's a cool thought, isn't it? So here's what I'm saying. One of these days, you will give an account of your stewardship. It would be really awesome for you to hear, you've been faithful over a few things. I'm going to make you ruler over many. God bless you. Enter into the joy of the Lord. That's cool. It may not mean much to you today. It's going to mean a lot to you later. But I'll tell you this. What if there were no later? Can I just share this with you? This is a pretty good life. I'm having fun. I feel fulfilled. I've broken the code for how to have a fulfilling life. What's wrong with that? And if I die and go to the dust and that's the end of it, I did all right on the way. So here's what I'm saying. God has given you certain, one day He's going to call for an accounting. We will all exercise our stewardship in some way. And my best advice to you is, don't squander it. Whatever you have, use it for the glory of God. That is what Jesus would do. That's what Jesus did.